Alright, so this video is to show you 8 things that you need to know if you're going to buy some old gear. Alright, now let's say you want to buy the MPC 1000. Okay, what you need to do is you need to learn everything about it. And the reason why I'm saying this is because no matter what it is you want to buy, is that you need to make sure that you know the inside and outside of the machine. And that's because with the way things are today for recording, of course, you know, a lot of people are used to controllers and software and everything. So they're not used to something like the MPC, which is totally hardware based. It's a standalone unit. So if you look up something like the MPC 1000, you'll notice that there's a black version and there's a blue version. Okay, now a lot of times, and this is one of the main reasons why I want to make this video, is because a lot of times I hear people talking about, oh, don't get the blue version, just get the black version. And the reason why is because, see, what happened was Akai, for some reason, when they came out with the 1000, they thought it'd be really cool and they get all scientifical or whatever and try to make the sensor pads different than what they usually had. So what you normally have with an MPC is you have this, okay, the sensor sheet right here, and then the pads on top of it. But what they did with the 1000 was that they just used this, just this one pad, okay, and it's got the pad and the sensor all together. And the reason why that sucks is because it wasn't reliable. First of all, it was a lower quality, and you know, like, you might have trouble with one pad, and if you do, you got to take that one pad out and go buy a new one, which you can't find anymore except like right here on mpcstuff.com, where you have to buy it used. So what they've done is they created this upgrade kit. Okay, so what it is that you take out the one from the 1000. Okay, you take out the little pads they have, and you replace it with this whole unit here. Okay, so you can see they've replaced it with this whole sensor sheet and the pads. You got this ribbon cable right here, and that's something to that I want to remind you of, is the ribbon cable. It's very, very tight. Okay, so you look here, this is the bottom of the pad sensor. Okay, so this whole unit is what you get with the board and everything, and then it's got that ribbon cable right here, and you can see how very tight it is right here. So when I got one, it was easy to put in. It's just that this thing kept popping out, so just something to be careful about if you do get this. Okay, I don't know why Akai did that, why they had to go with the pads, these single pads or whatever. It wasn't a good idea. So I think everybody's really, they've gone and upgraded it, whatever. But the thing is that I see people saying, oh, get the black one, don't get the blue one, because the black one has doesn't have the single ones. But that's false, because I bought a black MPC 1000 and it had those single pads. Okay, I knew it did because I asked the seller of that, but so I went and I had to get the upgrade kit and everything. But that's something you have to look out for. Okay, so if you're gonna buy the MPC 1000, just make sure that you ask, is it the single pads or is it the one sheet one? Because it's not like, oh, the black one's good and the blue one's not. No. I think what they did, Akai, was they had maybe like a second generation or something like that came out with the whole sheet, because they did do that. They did have I think it was only the black ones that had the full sheet, but they did have some that had the single pads. So just be careful of that when you're looking for that, because it's definitely not just a black or blue thing. Okay, it's whatever. But besides that, is that you need to learn everything about the machine. So what I recommend is that you research everything online. So what you do is you go to a site like vintagesynth.com, and what they have is they have everything you need to know about all these old units. So you have like this right here. It shows you the picture, it shows you the description of it. And then on the right side over here is all the specifications about it. So that's really, really good if you want to research everything and find out the ins and outs of that machine. All right. Okay, so number 2 is you want to see what's inside the machine. All right, so right here you can see in this picture, this is the Akai S950. This is the inside. Now I didn't know at first when I was first looking this up that it was that complicated inside, because what they have is there's actually 2 boards. There's this one, there's another one underneath, and that's a lot, because don't forget, this is in the 80s, right? This machine was made in the 80s. And this is the way it was back then. You look at computers back then, that's how they were. They had these big circuit boards, all these chips, and they're all soldered in. So these chips, you have a bunch of RAM chips in here, okay? Like here too is another one. And I mean, look at that. Look how detailed that is. But I mean, for some people it looks sexy, I guess, but for other people it's like, okay, this is too much work. I don't want to be involved with this. And that's why I recommend you look at the inside, because there might be a chance that you might have to upgrade something, you might have to fix something. Okay, so you look at these chips or these RAM chips, they're soldered into the board. It's not like today where you have a RAM stick, you just put it in to your computer, your motherboard, you just put it in, take it out, whatever. These are all soldered in, so you have to know some soldering, or at least know somebody who does soldering, who's willing to do some work for you, because most likely you probably won't have to do anything like that, but there's a chance you might. Okay, I mean, usually, if you're buying something from someone that it's it's something like this from the 80s or whatever, from the 90s, it's probably going to work. Of course, it's just, I think there's probably like a 90% chance you have that there's not going to be any problems with it. But I think over time, it could just break down. So you have to know the ins and outs of the machine, and you have to know that before you decide you want to buy it, because you don't want to buy it and then it doesn't work and you're like, well, what do I do with these chips? Where do I find them? Can I buy them somewhere and stuff? You could definitely buy this stuff online. You could definitely go to places like Mouser and then try to find the parts that you need or whatever. And plus, certain websites you can also go to that will help you. People will know exactly the issues you're having and all that, because they've been through it as well. So that's why it's good to look inside of any machine. That way you know exactly what's going on with it. Okay, so number 3 is to just look up on YouTube. Just look for some videos. Now, I just looked for the SB1200. I did a search for that, and right away I've got all these results. Okay, you can see people making beats. All right, people talking about the SB1200, how gritty it can get and all that. So it's very, very simple. And when you look at stuff like this, I mean, you can, that's a very good way to find out what the machine's all about and what it can do. Okay, because the last thing you want to do is you want to buy something and then you're going to regret it later. And especially these old machines, because they're pretty expensive. All right, I mean, I think it was about maybe 10, probably 15 years ago, where some of these units, like an MPC 2000 or an S950, they were going for like really, really cheap, and I didn't realize it at the time. Otherwise, I would have bought a bunch of them. But they were cheap. So now, of course, everybody wants this retro vintage stuff. So that's why the prices have gone up. Everybody's charging top dollar, and especially something like the SB1200. I mean, it's like what if you go on eBay, it's probably something like $4,000, $5,000 now or something. So that's why it's like you want to make sure that you know everything about your investment. It's nothing to go on YouTube and just check it out. Plus, it's fun. You get to see what's going on. Sometimes you might find videos where they're showing the inside of the machine as well, which helps with my previous point. So that's why definitely check out the videos, and you'll have a better idea what the machine's all about. All right, step number 4 is it going to help your workflow, or is it going to make it harder? Okay, you look at something like this. You got the S900 from Akai. Now, this is the early version of the S950. It's the same thing. It's just that it came out before the 950, of course, and it's more limited in the RAM, and it's not as capable as the 950. The 950 is much more popular, but they're both 12-bit. They both do a great job. It's just that just a bit of a difference here. Now the thing is, you look at something like the 950. Okay, it's a classic machine. A lot of people are really interested in it. They want it. But you have to consider, like I said, about the insides of the machine. Is that something you want to tackle later on, if needed? Okay, I mean, even just the floppy disks over here, do you want to go with that? You might find one that somebody's selling where they have a floppy emulator in there, and that's cool too. But still, it's still very limited. You have to remember that these are machines that were from the 80s or into the 90s, but especially the ones from the 80s, where it's a very, very limited sample time. It's very limited RAM. It's popular for the sound at the time. So you have to remember that when they had those machines back then, those beat makers and producers, they were using them because that's all they had. Okay, so you look at something like the 950, that was pretty much like an extension for a lot of these producers, because the other machines they had were very limited to begin with. So they thought, let's get 950 and that'll give me more sample time. And back then that was like a lot of sampling time for them. So now when you're talking about something like this, the SB1200, right? It's like the classic beat making machine. And the thing is though, but if you look, it's such a huge machine, and yet it's only got 10 seconds of sampling time. Now for a lot of people today, they're probably thinking, wow, that's not a lot. And it's not a lot. It's just that they found a way to use the machine to the best that they could find, but it's just that they still need more sampling time. So that's where the S950 would come in. So it's just like an extension. So if you're going to use the S950 today, you have to remember that it's, it's pretty much just like a nostalgic thing. That's why you're going to really buy it. It's not like it's something that's going to really make your workflow a hell of a lot better. No, it's just that it's just going to, make it nicer when you try to filter something or whatever, but it's not going to be like it's just going to make your beats amazing and it's going to speed up your workflow. No, it's actually going to slow you down. So you have to remember that. Is it going to make your workflow better or is it going to make it harder? Now with this sampler here, you got the Akai S612. I think this is actually the first main sampler that Akai came out with. And this one, if I'm not mistaken, it's only got about maximum 8 seconds of sampling time, which is not a lot at all. Okay, so these things too, they go for top dollar, but it's just that they're not as well known, but it's not as expensive as the 950, but it's just that still it's very, very, very limited in what it can do, but it's got great filtering on it. You get really gritty on this, a lot of grit, a lot of dirt on your sound that you want with this machine. Okay, so but again, this is one of those things that you have to remember that if you buy it, it's going to slow down your workflow, and it might be something that you're going to have to fix later on down the line. So just keep that in mind. Now, if you're going to buy something online, like on eBay, for example, okay, usually you're protected, right? There's the buyer protection, and so if something happens where you buy something like this, the MPC 2000 XL, and for some reason when you get it, it doesn't work properly, or there's something wrong with it, it's not booting up or something, you can have protection by eBay. That's okay. It's not too bad, but you still have to ask questions. Okay, so let's say you see this on eBay and you're not too sure about it, like how's the screen? Maybe you can't see the screen too well. I mean, you got to ask these questions, because once when I went and actually I was trying to buy something in person, I was trying to buy the S900 in person, and I didn't like it the way it was because I couldn't even see the screen and stuff, and it was just like I don't know, I just got a bad vibe from it, and I thought, no, I'm backing out of this. So the same thing online, you got to make sure that you ask questions because like I was mentioning earlier with the MPC 1000, when I bought it on eBay, I made sure I asked, are these pads together or are they all separate? And sure enough, they were separate. I bought it anyway because I was just intending on upgrading it, which I did, but it's just that still, you got to ask because you never know. I mean, you don't want to get the unit, it's not working, and then you can't really return it because they say, oh, well, you didn't really ask about that. So you just got to be sure that you ask everything you need to know about that machine. Okay, so number 6 is the same thing. If you're buying in person, ask questions, okay? And then when you go to see it, make sure that the seller turns it on for you, obviously, and then make sure and plays it for you, and that way you can hear if it works and all that. Because I mean, there's people I've heard about that of they went to buy some gear, they didn't even check to see if it went on. They just paid the person and left. And I mean, that's literally happened. So I don't know who would want to do that. I want to make sure that the thing works. Okay, so like I was saying, when I went and looked for an S900, yeah, the thing worked and all that, but first of all, the guy had it on the floor, okay, and it was on like all this other stuff was on top of it, so it didn't look too attractive to me because it was just on the floor. It looked pretty dirty and banged up, and then the screen I could barely see. It was very, very, very dim. So right there, I thought, oh well, I'm gonna have to upgrade the screen. So that's like another $100 right there. Plus, I got to do it myself. So you got to factor all those things in. Do you really want to get that? Is that something that you want to go down and down that path, and you want to start upgrading stuff right off the bat? Do you want to do that? So still ask questions and just find out, like, does this thing actually work? Ask the person, like, has it been dropped or something, or hey, what's this dent? What's this scratch? Just ask these things because you want to buy this thing. They want your money, so it's up to you. But still, it's good practice just to ask questions and just be safe. All right, number 7 is when you bring it home. The first thing you should do, of course, is just to test it out. Okay, test it out and make sure it's working. Okay, obviously you've already tested it by the seller, but still, when you bring it home, test it yourself and really check out the whole thing. And then after that, turn it off, unplug it, and then open it up. All right, I mean, that's why it's so important to open it up and check these things. Okay, because it's kind of like a computer. If you could build a computer, then you have an idea what's going on inside. So at least just open it up and make sure all the cables are connected. You never know. I mean, just the other day I had with my MPC 2500, I had it's a few months ago, I had the sideboard with the sliders. I had that connected. Like I opened it up and I had taken it apart, and then when I plugged it back in, I didn't realize that it didn't light up all the way. It was just like it would light up and then it would kind of cut out. So I didn't know what was going on, right? I thought maybe it was something else, software, whatever. So then I opened it back up, and then I realized that one of the cables was just slightly out. So you know, like, it's just one of those things. It's like, you know, it looks like it's in, but it's not. So it's like I had to push it all the way in, and then sure enough, everything's fine now. So make sure you open it up and just check it out, and make sure everything's connected. All right, and the last one, number 8, is just make sure you have fun with it. Okay, make sure you have fun with whatever it is that you bought. Make sure it's a fun part of your setup. Make it part of, like, a useful part of your setup, and make it that's also fun. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, let's say you buy an MPC 2000, okay, and then you bring it home, and you think to yourself, okay, I'm gonna make beats on this. It's gonna be wicked. This shit's gonna be banging. But then after that, you know, you start playing around with it, and you realize, yeah, it's not the same as, you know, Machine or Ableton or something. And of course not. It's not. So you have to be prepared for that, and that's why if you follow all those other steps, you know, you should be prepared for it. But still, once you finally get the unit and you start playing around with it, it still might not be something that you're really happy with, right? You might be like, oh, this is like really old equipment stuff. I'm not crazy about it. So in that case, you know what? I mean, yeah, you could sell it. You could do whatever you want with it. But the thing is, still, I would just recommend, you know, keep it. I mean, if you really don't want to make beats on it at that point, for some reason you just don't like it still, then, you know, hook it up with MIDI with something else, and just, you know, do some stuff with it. Have some fun with it, because you could hook it up to your sound card, your computer. You could hook it up to some external keyboard. Just use it with MIDI and stuff, and you come up with all kinds of crazy stuff with it. So that's why, just try different stuff with it. But the main thing is that, you know, you shouldn't even get to that point if you follow all the steps and you really know exactly, you know, what it is you want, what's inside the unit. If you've watched all the videos, you know, you realize that it's going to help your workflow. It's going to actually make things better, or it's just going to be cool to have it and stuff. You're a collector. If you have all this stuff, then you should be okay. You should be okay. You're going to like the unit. It's going to be fun. And still, just make it a useful part of your setup. You should be good to go. All right, so that's it. So if you follow all those steps, I guarantee you that you're going to have some used gear that's pretty old that you're going to actually integrate into your setup, and you're going to have fun with. And yeah, that's about it. All right, so go make some beats.